At 8,336 meters below the ocean surface, a camera caught a snailfish moving through the darkness. It is the deepest fish ever confirmed on video. But Challenger Deep is still another 2.5 kilometers below it. That means somewhere in the final stretch of this descent, fish disappear. Not because the ocean suddenly freezes, not because the bottom becomes completely empty. The problem is pressure. At some point, the chemistry that keeps a fish alive can no longer keep working the way it needs to. And below that line, life does not stop. Small crustaceans still cross the sediment. Sea cucumbers still move over the bottom. Microbes still live inside mud that has never seen sunlight. So the real question is not simply what lives in the Mariana Trench. The real question is this: what does life become when the ocean takes almost everything away? No sunlight, almost no familiar scenery, very little food, crushing pressure, and eventually no fish at all. To find out, we have to follow the ocean down. At first, nothing feels extreme. Sunlight pours through the surface. Schools of fish turn together in silver flashes. A ray glides over the bottom. A shark crosses open water with the calm efficiency of an animal built to keep moving. An octopus folds itself around rock and changes color before our eyes. This is the ocean most people recognize. It is also a very thin world. Below it is most of the ocean. As we descend, color begins to leave. Red disappears first, then orange, then yellow. The water absorbs one part of sunlight after another until the blue above us becomes darker and colder. And here, at the edge of useful daylight, we meet our first animal that looks as if it was designed for another planet. A small fish hangs almost motionless in the water. Its head is transparent. Behind that clear dome sit two bright green eyes. They point upward, scanning for the faint shadow of prey against the last light from the surface. This is the barrel-eye fish. For years, scientists knew the animal mostly from damaged specimens pulled up in nets. Its strange eyes seemed fixed in place, which created an obvious problem. If the eyes looked up, how did the fish see what it was eating in front of its mouth? Then researchers watched living barrel eyes with deep-diving robots. The eyes move. They can rotate forward inside the transparent shield when the fish feeds. That one encounter changed the way scientists understood the animal. And it is a good warning for the rest of this journey. A deep-sea animal can look absurd until you see it alive in the place it was built for. The transparent head is not decoration. The upward-looking eyes are not a mistake. They are solutions. Down here, almost every strange body is an answer to a problem. The first problem is being seen. In open water, there may be no rock, no reef, and no plant to hide behind. If your body creates a clear silhouette, something above or below can notice it. Some animals become silver, reflecting the dim water around them. Some become nearly transparent. Some become black or deep red, colors that disappear when the wavelengths needed to reveal them are gone. And some create light of their own. A squid drifts into view. Along the underside of its body, tiny light-producing organs glow just enough to match the faint light coming from above. From below, the squid's dark outline begins to disappear. This trick is called counter-illumination. The name sounds technical, the idea is not. If a predator is looking up for a dark shape against a brighter surface, erase the shape. The squid does not have to be invisible forever. It only has to be missed for 1 second. In the deep ocean, 1 second can be enough. A little farther down, daylight becomes weaker still. Now the flashes made by animals begin to stand out. Blue points appear in the darkness. A jelly pulses. A small animal lights up when disturbed. A predator carries a glowing lure. A squid can release light not to illuminate the world but to confuse the thing trying to eat it. Bioluminescence is not one behavior. It is a language with many uses. Come closer. Stay away. I am here. I am not where you think I am. Then another animal appears, and it seems to have been named by someone trying to make the deep sea sound frightening. The vampire squid. The name suggests a hunter. The animal is almost the opposite. It lives in deep water where oxygen can fall to levels that would challenge many active predators. Instead of spending its life chasing prey, the vampire squid can survive on a low-energy diet, collecting drifting organic material from the water. When threatened, it can turn the webbing between its arms outward, changing its shape. The tips of its arms can glow. It can even release luminous material into the water. Again, the strange appearance makes sense once the problem becomes clear. Low oxygen, low food, darkness. The animal survives not by becoming more aggressive, but by becoming more economical. That idea will follow us all the way to the bottom. Spend only what you can afford. Move when movement matters. Eat when the opportunity comes. Do not waste energy trying to live like an animal from the surface. Then the ocean gives us something much larger than one unusual fish or squid. For decades, sonar operators noticed a strange layer several hundred meters below the surface. On their instruments, it looked almost like a second seafloor. But at night, the seafloor rose. Before sunrise, it sank again. The bottom was moving. Except it was not a bottom at all. It was life. Huge numbers of fish, squid and crustaceans were moving through the water column together. When darkness reaches the surface, many rise into richer waters to feed. Before daylight returns, they descend again, where visual predators have a harder time finding them. This daily movement is part of the largest animal migration on Earth. Think about the scale of that for a moment. A tiny fish may travel only a few hundred meters. A shrimp may be barely visible in the hand. A squid may make the trip without ever being seen by a human. But spread that movement across entire regions of ocean, night after night, and billions of bodies begin carrying energy up and down through the sea. Predators follow them. Waste sinks behind them. Dead animals fall. Carbon that began near sunlight is carried into darker water. The deep ocean is not cut off from the surface. It is fed by it. At around 1,000 meters, useful sunlight is essentially gone. There is no sunrise here, no sunset. Turn off the vehicle lights and the ocean disappears. Turn them back on, and something may already be waiting in the beam. A jelly drifts past like living glass. A squid appears for 3 seconds and vanishes. A dark fish holds so still that the camera almost passes it. We never see this world all at once. We see whatever enters the light. Then, after a long stretch of open darkness, the bottom finally appears. Pale sediment rises into view below the vehicle. At first it looks empty. No reef, no plants, no obvious movement. Just a flat plain of mud fading into black. Then the camera gets closer. There are tracks in the sediment. A brittle star lifts one arm. A sea cucumber moves slowly across the bottom. A crab searches between pieces of rock. A fish rests so close to the mud that its outline almost disappears. Tiny animals vanish into holes we did not notice from above. The seafloor was not empty. We were simply looking at it too quickly. And now the rules change again. In open water, the problem was hiding and finding prey in darkness. On the bottom, the biggest problem is often food. A sea cucumber is not built for a dramatic chase. It does not need to be. It can move through sediment, take material into its body, remove the small amount of nutrition inside, and leave the rest behind. A crab can search for scraps. Worms can work through buried material. A bottom fish can wait instead of patrol. Nothing about this looks fast. That is the point. Movement costs energy, hunting costs energy, fighting costs energy. When meals are uncertain, a quiet life can be an advantage. Then the camera finds something that looks anything but delicate. An armored animal sits on the seafloor, broad and segmented, with many legs tucked beneath its body. A giant isopod. It looks like a pill bug, enlarged for a science fiction film. And when food appears, the calm scene can change quickly. NOAA cameras have recorded giant isopods feeding on a fish head on the deep seafloor. A meal like that matters because the next one may not arrive soon. This is the pattern we are beginning to see. The deeper ocean is not a place where animals become randomly bizarre. It is a place where every advantage has to pay for itself. A transparent head pays for itself. Light-producing organs pay for themselves. Patience pays for itself. Armor pays for itself. And the ability to eat almost anything edible may be one of the best investments of all. Because above this quiet plain, something is falling all the time. At first it looks like dust in the headlights. Then the particles become impossible to ignore. The deep sea has its own snow. The particles drift through the beam one after another. Some are almost too small to see. Others have clumped together into soft flakes. They are pieces of the world above. Dead plankton, waste, mucus, fragments of animals, tiny bits of organic material sticking together as gravity pulls them down. Scientists call it marine snow. The name sounds gentle. For the animals below, it is food delivery. Most of what is produced near the surface never reaches the deep sea floor. It gets eaten on the way down. Bacteria break it apart. Small animals intercept it. Larger particles become smaller ones. By the time a flake reaches the abyss, much of its original energy is gone. But not all of it. A sea cucumber can pull nutrition from sediment where that material collects. A sponge can filter particles from moving water. Worms and microbes can use carbon buried in mud. This creates one of the strangest food chains on Earth. A microscopic organism living in sunlight near the surface can die, sink for miles, be broken apart and recycled several times, and still end up feeding an animal that has never seen daylight. The two animals may never share the same depth. Gravity connects them anyway. Most days the delivery is small. Then something larger falls. A fish, a mass of algae, a piece of wood washed far from land. For animals used to scattered crumbs, any concentrated source of food can change the seafloor around it. Scavengers arrive, microbes multiply, predators follow the scavengers. A place that looked almost empty can become busy in hours. And then, once in a while, the deep ocean receives a delivery so large that the ecosystem around it can change for years. A whale falls out of the world above. For most of its life, a whale belongs to the surface. It travels enormous distances. It dives and returns to breathe. It feeds in productive water and carries a massive body through the ocean. Then it dies. If the carcass remains buoyant, it may float for a time. Sharks and seabirds may feed at the surface. Eventually, some bodies sink. And if a whale reaches the deep seafloor, everything around it changes. Imagine the scale from the perspective of a deep-sea scavenger. For miles, food may be spread through sediment in tiny amounts. Then several tons of flesh arrive in one place. The chemical signal begins spreading through the water. Something detects it. A fish comes from the darkness. Then another. Hagfish twist into openings in the carcass. Crabs and amphipods crowd around exposed tissue. Other scavengers arrive from beyond the camera's light. The quiet bottom becomes a feeding site. For a while, the whale is simply meat. Large scavengers take the easiest tissue. Smaller animals work over what remains. The sediment around the body becomes enriched with fragments and waste. But this is where the story becomes much stranger. The feast does not end when the flesh is gone. It changes caste. Worms and smaller invertebrates take over the surrounding sediment. The skeleton becomes exposed. And the bones are still full of energy. Whale bones contain fats locked inside them. Microbes can break down those compounds in low oxygen conditions. In the process, hydrogen sulfide can be produced. To many animals, hydrogen sulfide is toxic. To certain microbes, it is fuel. Those microbes use chemical energy to build organic matter. Other organisms feed on them or live with them. A dead skeleton becomes the foundation of another food web. Then one of the most specialized animals in the entire story arrives. Bone-eating worms. Bone-eating worms can live directly on whale bones. The adult females do not have a normal mouth for chewing bone. Instead, root-like tissues grow into the skeleton, and symbiotic bacteria help unlock nutrients inside. Look at what evolution has done here. The problem is incredibly specific. There is energy trapped inside a whale bone at the bottom of the ocean. How do you get it out? The answer is not bigger teeth. It is an entirely different way of eating. That is why a whale fall is such a useful stop on this descent. It shows how quickly the deep sea can change when energy becomes concentrated. One day there is mud. Then there is a carcass. Then a feeding frenzy. Then a community of worms and microbes. Then, years later, a skeleton that still matters because it provides both food and hard structure in a landscape dominated by soft sediment. A single whale can become an island. And for some species, whale falls may help connect one rare patch of suitable habitat to another across the deep ocean floor. The idea sounds almost impossible when we think about the whale as one animal. But the deep sea does not see a whale the way we do. It sees carbon, fat, bone, shelter, a temporary city of energy in a food-poor world. Then the camera leaves the skeleton behind. The plane becomes quiet again. Marine snow keeps falling. A sea cucumber crosses the mud. A crab disappears out of the light. For a while, the deep ocean returns to its normal economy of small meals and long waits. Then the seafloor changes. Bare sediment gives way to broken rock. The water above it begins to shimmer. Mineral towers rise in the distance. And suddenly, after miles of a world that survives on food falling from above, we find an ecosystem powered from below. At first, a hydrothermal vent field can look like the ruins of something built. Dark chimneys stand above the rock. Mineral walls twist into strange shapes. Black clouds pour upward into water that has been dark for millions of years. Then the lights move closer, and the ruins are alive. Tube worms rise in clusters. Shrimp crowd around warm flow. Crabs move between mineral towers. Mussels pack together where the chemistry is right. After the quiet abyssal plain, the density of life can feel almost impossible. And that is exactly why the first discoveries of hydrothermal vent communities changed ocean science. Until then, the basic story of a food web seemed obvious. Sunlight powers photosynthesis. Plants or phytoplankton capture that energy. Animals eat them. Other animals eat those animals. But there is no sunlight here. Not a little. None. So what is feeding this city? The answer begins inside the seafloor. Seawater moves down through cracks in the ocean crust. It is heated by hot rock below and reacts with minerals. The altered water rises again and escapes through vents. When that hot, mineral-rich fluid meets near-freezing seawater, dissolved minerals can come out of solution and build chimneys over time. Some release dark plumes that look like smoke. But the important part is not the chimney. It is the chemistry. Certain bacteria and archaea can use chemical reactions as an energy source. They do not need sunlight to do the job. Through chemosynthesis, those microbes build organic matter. And once microbes can turn chemical energy into food, animals can build an entire community around them. The best-known example is almost unbelievable when seen up close. A giant tube worm has no ordinary mouth, no normal stomach, no intestine doing the job we expect from an animal that needs to eat. Instead, the adult carries vast numbers of symbiotic bacteria inside its body. The worm delivers the chemicals the bacteria need. The bacteria produce organic compounds the worm can use. The animal survives because another form of life is living inside it and doing the chemistry. That is not a side detail. It is the whole feeding strategy. Around another vent, the cast may be different. Shrimp can gather in dense numbers close to warm flow. Mussels can house their own microbial partners. Crabs search among the structures. Snails graze where microbes grow. A vent in one ocean does not necessarily look like a vent in another. Geography, chemistry, and evolutionary history all change which species arrive. But the pattern is the same. In permanent darkness, geology creates a source of chemical energy. Microbes capture it. Animals gather around the microbes. A city appears where we expected almost nothing. There is a catch. The most valuable part of the habitat can also be dangerous. The fluid coming directly from parts of a vent system can be hot enough and chemically harsh enough to kill many animals. Just a short distance away, the surrounding deep water is close to freezing. So life crowds around a narrow boundary. Close enough to benefit, far enough not to die. That creates a very different kind of survival problem from the one we saw on the abyssal plain. Out on the mud, the challenge was finding enough energy. Here, energy is concentrated, but the habitat can shift. A chimney can collapse. Flow can weaken. A crack can close, and another one open somewhere else. A vent field can change on timescales that matter to the animals living there. And if your entire way of life depends on this chemistry, the next generation has to find another suitable place. Larvae released into the water may drift through darkness for long distances before reaching another vent. Some will never find one. The lucky ones land in the right neighborhood. That is a better way to picture the deep seafloor, not as one endless habitat, but as a patchwork of scattered neighborhoods. A whale fall is one. A vent field is another. A rocky seamount can be another. And sometimes a tiny change in temperature is enough to turn one patch of deep seafloor into one of the most crowded nurseries ever found. The robotic vehicle is moving over rock more than 3,000 meters below the surface when pale shapes begin appearing in the lights. At first there are a few, then dozens. Then the camera pulls back and the bottom seems covered with them. Octopuses. Not hunting. Not fighting. Brooding eggs. Off the coast of California, researchers discovered a site now known as the Octopus Garden. Thousands of pearl octopuses gather around cracks in the seafloor where warmer water seeps through the rock. The deep ocean around them is cold enough to slow development dramatically. Inside the warm cracks, the eggs develop faster. For a brooding mother, that matters. She remains with the eggs. She protects them. She does not simply leave and return later. The longer development takes, the longer she remains exposed to everything that can go wrong. A small amount of geothermal warmth changes the odds. So thousands of mothers gather, where the geology gives their young a better chance. This is one of the moments when the deep ocean stops feeling empty and starts feeling crowded with decisions. Every octopus in the frame is there because somewhere in its evolutionary history, finding this kind of place mattered. The cracks are not impressive from the surface. There is no giant reef announcing them. No sunlight marks the warm water. Without instruments and a camera, we would never know the nursery was there. Yet to the octopuses, those few degrees are worth a journey. That pattern keeps repeating as we descend. A patch of hard rock, a carcass, a chemical seep, even a crack leaking slightly warmer water can change the odds for anything living nearby. From far away, the deep seafloor can look uniform. To the animals here, it is a map of opportunities. And just beyond those crowded oases, the darkness can become empty-looking again almost immediately. The vehicle leaves the nursery. The last octopus slips out of the beam. Rock gives way to sediment. The crowd disappears. For several minutes, there may be nothing larger than a few small animals in view. Then something long moves along the bottom. An eel follows the rock edge, checking gaps and crevices. A little farther on, an octopus works across broken terrain one arm at a time, touching and tasting the bottom as it goes. A squid holds above the seafloor, then leaves the frame with a sudden burst. A deep-water shark passes through the light and is gone before the camera can follow. These animals look very different, but they share the same basic problem. How much energy can you afford to spend on the next meal? An eel can follow structure without crossing huge areas of open water. An octopus can investigate almost every surface within reach without carrying the heavy body of a fast swimmer. A squid can save explosive speed for the moment it matters. A shark can cruise efficiently over long distances. None of them is simply trying to be the fastest animal in the deep. They are trying to make the numbers work. Energy in, energy out. Miss too many meals, and the mathematics becomes fatal. Then the lights catch something that does not belong to nature at all. A straight edge. A corroded surface. A shipwreck. Human machines can become deep-sea neighborhoods too. Steel creates hard structure where the surrounding bottom may be soft. Sponges and other attached animals can settle on exposed surfaces. Fish can use openings for shelter. Crustaceans move through spaces that were once built for people. A vessel designed to cross the surface becomes habitat after it sinks below it. Wood can do something similar. A tree can fall into a river, travel out to sea, become waterlogged, and eventually sink. On the deep bottom, that log is concentrated carbon. Specialized organisms arrive. Microbes break it down. Other animals feed around the process. The pattern repeats. The deep ocean can look starved until one object or one patch changes the local economy. A whale, a log, a wreck, a vent, a warm seep. The animals do not need the whole ocean to be rich. They need to find the right patch before someone else does. Beyond those islands of abundance, the plain opens again. This is where distance becomes part of the story. A predator near the surface can often see prey from far away. Down here, vision may work only at close range, or only when something produces light. So animals read the ocean in other ways. A dead fish begins releasing chemicals into the water. Currents pull that signal away from the body. A scavenger detects the trail and follows it upstream. Long antennae test the space ahead of a crustacean. Fish feel pressure changes created by movement nearby. An octopus touches a surface and receives both physical and chemical information through its suckers. And then there is sound. The deep sea looks silent on video because a camera cannot show a sound. The ocean itself is never truly silent. Earthquakes travel through it. Ships add low-frequency noise. Whales call across large distances. Storms and breaking waves create sound at the surface that can travel far below. Even the deepest trenches can hear the world above. That creates a strange contrast. Visually, a robotic vehicle may see only a few meters. Acoustically, the ocean can connect places separated by enormous distances. Our lights make the deep sea feel small because they create a bright bubble around the vehicle. Outside that bubble is almost everything. A fish can pass behind us. A squid can notice the vehicle and leave before the camera turns. A cliff can rise out of the darkness only when we are almost on top of it. Every deep-sea dive is incomplete by design. We see a narrow path through a world much larger than the path. Then around 4,000 meters down, the scale changes again. We enter the abyssal world. The name suggests a hole. Much of it looks more like a plain. Soft sediment can stretch beyond the reach of the lights in every direction. There may be no obvious landmark except the tracks left by animals moving across the bottom. A sea cucumber crosses slowly. A brittle star disappears into sediment. A small fish holds just above the mud. Then, after a long flat stretch, the bottom begins to rise. Rock appears. Sponges become more common. Corals lift into the current. Fish gather around structure. We are moving onto a seamount. To us, a seamount is an underwater mountain. To the animals around it, it can be an island. Currents are forced around the slope. Hard rock gives attached animals somewhere to grow. Food moving through the water can become concentrated along certain edges. A plain that looked almost empty can turn into a forest of deep-sea corals and sponges. These are not tropical reefs powered by sunlight. Many deep-sea corals capture food directly from moving water. Some grow very slowly. Their branches create structure in a place where structure is valuable. Small crustaceans hide among them. Fish rest nearby. Other animals feed around the colony. The change can happen over a surprisingly short distance. Mud, rock, current, suddenly more life. A depth map alone cannot tell the biological story. Two places at the same depth can look completely different if the bottom, current, or chemistry changes. Depth matters, but habitat matters too. And now depth is about to become the dominant problem. The seamount falls behind us. The seafloor slopes downward again. 5,000 meters. 5,500. Then 6,000. We have crossed into the hadal zone. The name comes from Hades, the ancient Greek underworld. It is an appropriate name, but not because this place is dead. It is because trenches create a world with different rules. A trench is not simply an abyssal plain with more water piled on top. Its shape changes the movement of sediment and food. Steep walls funnel material downward. Landslides can carry enormous amounts of sediment into deeper pockets. Organic matter that would be spread thinly across a flat plain can become concentrated in parts of a trench. That creates another surprise. Deeper does not always mean less food. In some places, the trench itself can collect it. But every animal here faces a problem that no trench geometry can remove. Pressure. At the surface, our bodies live under one atmosphere of pressure. At 6,000 meters, the number is hundreds of times greater. The water presses from every direction. For human equipment, this is an engineering problem. Pressure housings, seals, windows, and electronics have to survive forces that would destroy ordinary hardware. For an animal, the problem goes deeper than a shell. Pressure reaches the chemistry of life. Proteins have to keep their shape. Cell membranes have to keep working. Nerves still have to fire. Muscles still have to contract. Enzymes still have to do their jobs. That is why one of the most remarkable animals in this entire descent looks so unimpressive at first glance. A pale fish appears in the light. Soft body, large head, tapering tail, no armor, no giant teeth. A hadal snailfish. It looks fragile. It is living under pressure that would destroy most fish. The animal does not defeat that pressure by becoming a tank. Its body avoids features that become liabilities at depth. It does not rely on a gas-filled swim bladder. Its tissues and body chemistry are adapted to keep working under high pressure. And in trenches where hadal snailfish occur, they can be successful predators. They feed on small crustaceans, including amphipods, in a world with very few competing fish species. For a while, fish have found a way to continue. Then the depth numbers keep rising. 7,000 meters, 7,500, 8,000. Now we are approaching one of the most important boundaries in the ocean. A camera descends into a deep trench near Japan. At 8,336 meters, a snailfish swims through the frame. That is the deepest fish ever confirmed on video. The image is not dramatic in the usual sense. The fish does not roar. It does not attack the camera. It does not look like a monster. It simply swims. And that is what makes the footage extraordinary. A vertebrate body is still functioning more than 8 kilometers below the surface. But not much deeper. Evidence suggests that somewhere around 8,200 to 8,400 meters, fish approach a physiological ceiling. There is no visible wall, no temperature cliff, no line painted across the sediment. The barrier exists inside the chemistry of the animal. Below it, the compounds that help proteins tolerate pressure appear to reach a limit of their own. Think about what that means. Fish live in tropical reefs, polar seas, rivers, caves, and open ocean. They survive beneath ice. They cross entire ocean basins. They hunt in darkness. Some live around vents and on abyssal plains. For hundreds of millions of years, fish have occupied almost every kind of aquatic environment on Earth. Then depth finally wins. Not by crushing a fish like a can, by making the internal chemistry too difficult to maintain. And this is the payoff promised at the beginning of our descent. The last fish disappears, but the trench keeps going. Challenger Deep is still roughly another 2.5 kilometers deeper than that record fish observation near Japan. So we continue without them. Below the likely fish limit, the cast changes. A baited lander touches down on the seafloor. At first, the camera sees almost nothing. Then one amphipod appears. Another follows. Soon the bait is surrounded. Nothing was created by the lander. The animals were already there, moving through a darkness the camera could not see. The scent simply gave them a reason to gather. These small crustaceans are not the giant monsters people imagine when they hear the words deepest ocean. They are more interesting than that. They are flexible scavengers living where vertebrate fish have already run out of options. Sea cucumbers continue too. Their movements remain slow. Their bodies can look soft and vulnerable. But a sea cucumber crossing sediment under enormous pressure is not simple life. Its cells are still doing chemistry. Its muscles are still working. It is still finding food, maintaining tissues, and reproducing in an environment that excludes entire groups of animals. Worms remain. Single-celled organisms remain. Microbes remain inside the sediment. The deeper we go, the more the ocean changes our idea of what counts as impressive. Near the surface, power is easy to recognize in the speed of a shark or the scale of a whale. At extreme hadal depth, the standard changes. An amphipod is remarkable because its body still works. A sea cucumber can cross the sediment under crushing pressure. A microbe can keep its chemistry running beneath more than 8 kilometers of water. The deepest ocean does not need monsters to be extraordinary. It is already full of survivors. 9,000 meters. The pressure continues rising. The world in the beam becomes simpler in appearance, but not in biology. The vehicle is now deeper than almost every place on the planet. There is no sunlight above us for kilometers. No fish enters the frame. The trench walls and sediment continue downward. And ahead is the depression that has become a symbol for the deepest ocean on Earth. But before the bottom comes into view, there is one more story worth carrying with us. Humans have been trying to measure this depth for far longer than we have been able to visit it. In 1875, the crew of the British research ship Challenger lowered a weighted line into the Western Pacific and made one of the earliest scientific soundings of the trench. The tools were simple compared with modern sonar, but the measurement revealed something enormous below the ship. The ocean floor was not where people expected it to be. It kept going down. Decades later, echo sounding and better instruments refined the picture. Then, in 1960, two men decided not just to measure the deepest ocean, but to go there. Jack Pickard and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh descended inside the deep-diving vessel Trieste. The vehicle did not look like a modern submersible. A massive float sat above a small pressure sphere built to hold two people. As Trieste sank, the ocean outside grew darker and the pressure climbed for hours. Then, deep in the descent, there was a violent sound. A viewing window had cracked in an outer layer. The pressure sphere remained intact. The men continued. Eventually, after a descent of nearly 5 hours, Trieste reached the bottom of Challenger Deep. For the first time, human beings were sitting on the deepest known seafloor on Earth. They could not stay long. Sediment stirred up by the landing reduced visibility. Communication with the surface was difficult. Every minute at the bottom existed inside a machine surrounded by pressure that no unprotected human body could survive. But the dive proved something that had seemed almost impossible. The bottom could be reached. Then came a long gap. For decades, no human returned to Challenger Deep. Robotic systems improved, sonar improved, mapping improved. The trench became better measured without becoming familiar. That changed again in the 21st century, as new full ocean depth vehicles began returning people to the bottom. Each generation of technology solved a different part of the problem. First, a vehicle has to survive the pressure. Then it has to navigate where GPS cannot reach, communicate across kilometers of water, and collect fragile samples without destroying them. Even measuring depth precisely is harder than it sounds, because pressure, temperature, and local gravity all affect the calculation. Going to Challenger Deep is not one engineering problem. It is a stack of problems, all of which have to work at the same time. And even after a vehicle reaches the bottom, the trench is still connected to the world above in ways the people inside may not notice. In 2015, scientists lowered a hydrophone into Challenger Deep and listened. The deepest ocean was not silent. The instrument recorded a baleen whale call, an earthquake, a typhoon passing far above, even noise associated with ships. That may be one of the strangest images of the entire descent. A sensor sitting near the deepest known seafloor, in darkness under almost 11 kilometers of water, still hearing weather, geology, animals, and human activity from the larger ocean. The trench is remote. It is not disconnected. Now the depth counter keeps falling. 9,500 meters. 10,000. 10,500. The altimeter begins to detect the bottom. The pilot slows the descent. Sediment is somewhere below the lights, still invisible. Then a faint surface appears. After hours of falling through water, the vehicle is finally about to stop. Challenger Deep. The Mariana Trench curves through the western Pacific, east of the Mariana Islands. It exists because one tectonic plate bends and descends beneath another. On a map, the trench is a long arc. From inside it, the scale is harder to understand. A submersible can spend hours descending and still have kilometers left to go. 10,000 meters. The vehicle is now carrying almost 7 miles of ocean above it. Every part of the machine has been designed around pressure. A seal that fails near the surface is an inconvenience. At full ocean depth, it can end a mission. A housing that flexes too far can destroy the electronics inside. For a crewed vehicle, the pressure sphere is the thin, engineered boundary between human life and an environment our bodies could never enter directly. The people inside do not feel 1,000 atmospheres pressing on them. The sphere does. Outside, the water is near freezing. Inside, instruments continue counting down the distance to the bottom. Hundreds of meters. Then tens. The vehicle slows. Its lights finally catch sediment. After the entire descent, the bottom of Challenger Deep can look almost ordinary. Mud, small ridges, particles crossing the beam. A few animals if we are lucky. No gate marks the deepest known point of the ocean. No enormous creature waits for the camera. The most extreme thing in the image is invisible. Pressure. At roughly 10,935 meters below sea level, Challenger Deep sits beneath more than 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at the surface. The number is difficult to feel, so imagine what the vehicle has already passed through. The bright surface where sharks and rays moved in daylight. The twilight zone where the barrel eye looked upward through its transparent head. The dark water where animals made their own light. The moving layer of fish and squid that rose toward the surface every night. The first seafloor where sea cucumbers and isopods survived on a slow economy. The whale fall. The vent cities. The octopus nursery. The abyssal plain. The hadal snailfish. The invisible boundary below which fish no longer follow. All of that is now above us. At Challenger Deep, the animals that remain belong to a different world from the one where the descent began. Small scavenging crustaceans can move through the sediment. Sea cucumbers and other invertebrates occur in hadal environments. Microbes live within the bottom itself. Organic material from the upper ocean continues to arrive after a journey through miles of water. And human material can arrive too. That is one of the uncomfortable discoveries of deep-sea exploration. The deepest ocean is remote, but it is not isolated. Water circulates. Carbon moves. Dead organisms fall. Chemicals move through the ocean system. Pollution and debris can make the journey downward as well. Depth does not remove the bottom from the planet. It only makes the connection harder for us to see. Now look at the camera view again. A few meters of illuminated sediment. Darkness beyond it. This is another reason the Mariana Trench remains mysterious even after humans have reached its deepest point. We have visited places in the trench. We have not watched the whole trench. A lander sees one patch. A crewed submersible follows one track. A robotic vehicle explores one route. A sediment core samples an area that may be only centimeters wide. The problem is scale. Imagine trying to understand an entire continent by driving one road at night with headlights on. You could learn a lot from that road. You could collect animals, photograph rocks, measure temperature, and analyze chemistry. But most of the continent would still be outside your lights. That is the deep ocean. Every expedition adds another road, another set of samples, another few hours of video, another encounter that may answer one question and create three more. This is why an animal can be known to science for decades and still surprise us when we finally watch it alive. The barrel eye was a perfect example near the beginning of the journey. Dead specimens told scientists that the fish existed. Living video revealed the transparent shield and moving eyes in their real context. The same problem appears again and again in deep-sea biology. A net can bring an animal to the surface, but a damaged body on a deck cannot show how it hovers, hunts, flashes, broods eggs, or reacts to a predator. Behavior lives in the habitat. That makes the camera almost as important as the specimen. And it explains why deep diving robots have changed our picture of the ocean so dramatically. They let us watch animals before pressure changes, temperature changes, and capture have altered them. They let us see the neighborhood around the animal. They let us notice that the empty-looking mud is full of tracks, that a strange fish is staring upward, that an octopus nursery covers a hillside, that an isopod can leave the bottom and swim, that an entire community can gather around a chemical source in permanent darkness. The deep ocean is not just a collection of unusual species. It is a collection of relationships we are still learning to see. And that creates one final shift in the way we understand the Mariana Trench. People often imagine it as one giant hole filled with the strangest animals on Earth. The real place is more complicated. The trench contains slopes, basins, and different kinds of sediment. The broader Mariana region includes seamounts, volcanic systems, and chemically unusual habitats. Depth can change by kilometers. The bottom can change from soft mud to hard rock. Food can become concentrated in one area and scarce in another. There is no single Mariana habitat, and there is no single creature that represents it. That actually makes our visual journey more honest. The animals we met on the way down do not all live at Challenger Deep. They show us how the deep ocean changes as light, food, habitat, and pressure change. The barreleye belongs to the twilight world. The vampire squid solves a problem in low-oxygen deep water. The giant isopod is a deep-sea scavenger. Vent animals depend on chemistry from the seafloor. Octopus mothers gather where warm water changes the odds for their eggs. Hadal snailfish push vertebrate life close to its pressure limit. Below that limit, invertebrates continue. The Mariana Trench is the final destination, but the story is the descent itself. Because each layer removes one option and reveals another solution. First, sunlight fades, so animals become transparent, reflective, dark, or luminous. Then food becomes harder to find, so animals slow down, scavenge, wait, and use almost everything that arrives. Then the seafloor offers isolated bursts of abundance. A whale becomes a city. A vent becomes a food web. A warm crack becomes a nursery. Then pressure rises until fish reach the edge of what their body chemistry can tolerate. And after fish disappear, other forms of life keep going. This is what makes the deepest ocean so different from the monsters in our imagination. The real story is not that every animal becomes bigger, uglier, or more dangerous. The real story is that evolution keeps finding smaller margins to work with. A little less energy, a little more pressure, a little less oxygen, a little farther from the next meal, until the adaptations themselves reach a limit. Then another kind of organism takes over. There is another reason scientists care about these limits. They tell us something about life beyond the ocean. Hydrothermal vents proved that an ecosystem does not need sunlight at the exact place where its food web begins. Chemosynthetic microbes can capture energy from chemical reactions and support animals in permanent darkness. That discovery changed more than ocean biology. It changed the questions scientists could ask about other worlds. Several icy moons in the outer solar system are believed to contain oceans beneath frozen surfaces. Europa, orbiting Jupiter, and Enceladus, orbiting Saturn, are two of the best-known examples. We do not know whether those oceans contain life. There is no evidence today that they do. But the deep sea taught us not to dismiss an ocean simply because sunlight cannot reach it. If chemical energy and liquid water are available, the question becomes more interesting. So a vent field on Earth is more than a strange place with tube worms and shrimp. It is a natural experiment in how life can organize itself around an energy source that has nothing to do with daylight. The hadal zone asks a different question. How much pressure can complex life tolerate? A snailfish gives one answer. An amphipod gives another. A microbe gives another. There is no single adaptation called deep-sea survival. A jelly solves darkness differently from a squid. A squid solves movement differently from an octopus. An isopod solves food scarcity differently from a shark. A tube worm solves feeding in a way that barely resembles feeding at all. And a snailfish solves pressure well enough to reach more than 8 kilometers down, but not all the way to Challenger Deep. The ocean keeps changing the question. Life keeps changing the answer. That is what we have been watching for the entire descent. Not a parade of monsters. A series of solutions. And the farther down we went, the less familiar those solutions became. Now the vehicle begins to rise. The sediment falls away beneath the lights, and Challenger Deep disappears back into darkness. There is no dramatic border between explored and unexplored seafloor. One illuminated patch simply slips out of view, while thousands of unseen patches remain beyond it. That is the scale problem at the heart of deep ocean exploration. A lander can watch one place, a submersible can follow one route, a camera can record a few hours of behavior. Each dive adds something real, but none of them can show us the whole world at once. And that is why the deep ocean can still surprise us without any help from myths. A fish with a transparent head is real. A whale can fall from the bright ocean and become an ecosystem on the dark seafloor. Tube worms can live without a normal mouth or digestive system because bacteria inside them do the chemical work. Thousands of octopus mothers can gather around warm cracks more than 3 kilometers underwater because a few degrees of heat can improve the odds for their eggs. A snailfish can swim at 8,336 meters, close to the apparent pressure limit for fish. And below that limit, life continues for kilometers more. None of this needs to be exaggerated. The real ocean is already strange enough. Every one of these animals has to solve the same basic problems. Find energy, avoid becoming food, reproduce, and keep its body working under conditions that become less forgiving with depth. The solutions are different because the problems change. Near the surface, speed and vision can dominate. In the twilight zone, transparency and bioluminescence become useful. On the deep seafloor, patience can matter more than speed. Around vents, microbes turn chemistry into food. In the hadal zone, pressure begins deciding which kinds of animals can continue. By the time we reach Challenger Deep, almost everything familiar from the surface has disappeared. Sunlight is gone. Plants are gone. Fish are gone. But the bottom is not dead. Small crustaceans still move through the sediment. Sea cucumbers and other invertebrates survive in hadal environments. Microbes continue their chemistry inside the mud. Organic material from the surface still makes the long journey down. The deepest point in the ocean is not separated from the planet above it. It is connected by water, carbon, sound, falling bodies, drifting particles, and time. As the vehicle climbs, the lights leave the bottom behind. Soon the camera shows nothing but black water again. Somewhere below, an amphipod may be following a chemical trail. A sea cucumber may be crossing fresh sediment. A larva may be drifting toward a vent it will either find or miss. And on a patch of seafloor no camera has crossed, an animal may be doing something no human has ever watched. That possibility is the reason to go back. Another dive. Another lander. Another camera descending through miles of water. We call Challenger deep the bottom because eventually the ocean runs out. For exploration, it is not the end. It is where the next question begins. And the next time the lights come on, something may already be waiting in the beam.